so excited today. We are so excited today to have a co-sponsored webinar on soil health from the Pan-African Farmers Organization, PAFO, and AgriCord. Together, they're with their shared commitment to elevate the voices of African farmers, we are starting where our food starts, in the soil. So I know that you will get more information about PAFO and AgriCord, but let me just start with a little bit of information about soil. So when you think of soil, what is the definition you use? We say that soil is the biologically active layer of the Earth's surface. So today we're going to be talking about how to restore degraded land and build healthy soil ecosystems. There's just a couple housekeeping notes here. One, we have fantastic interpreters on the line. So you click on the three dots and you choose your language. So I am using the English language, you can choose French. So please go ahead and choose your language for interpretation. And we thank the interpreters in advance for their tireless efforts. Second, we will have loads of time for conversation, dialogue, Q&A. But in order to be unmuted, you must raise your hand. So that is under the React, and you raise your hand as I've just done now. And then that will give the organizers an opportunity for you to be unmuted. So with that, as I said, soil is the biologically active layer of the Earth's surface. 95% of our food is grown in soil, yet over 40% of the Earth's surface is degraded. This calls for immediate action to build healthy soil ecosystems. And today we have the opportunity to hear from farmer organizations, from entrepreneurs, to really dig into solutions for building healthy soils. And it is really exciting to see how Pan-African Farmer Organization and AgriCord are coming together, host this 4-part webinar series. This is the first part really focused on soil. So the objectives today are to, one, showcase practical experiences and innovations developed by farmers. And we're going to hear from farmers. And let's facilitate peer-to-peer learning. So as I said, this is a 2-hour webinar, and we'll have loads of time for discussion and questions and answers. Second, our third objective is to strengthen collaboration between farmer organizations, research, and development partners working on soil health. Let's break these silos. Let's build bridges so that we are generating actionable research and evidence with farmers and for use by farmers. And this contribute to the evidence-based advocacy and policy dialogue on soil regeneration and agroecology. So I'm really excited to be here with you today as a soil scientist, as I mentioned. So today we're going to have opening remarks. And originally it was going to be from the CEO of PAFO, but we are honored now to have Mr. Amable Twagirayezu. I am guessing, you can guess that he is our colleague from Rwanda, and he is the programs officer for PAFO. And he has the floor to formally open the webinar, give opening remarks. Thank you so much, Amable. Over to you.
Thank you very much, moderator, for the brilliant and wonderful introductory remarks, which have set the tone of the conversation. As you said, I'm Amable Twagirayezu. I'm the Programs Officer of Pan-African Farmers Organization. We are based in Kigali, but my CEO, Dr. Babafemi Oyewole, was supposed to deliver these remarks. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today as he is on mission. So I'm here to represent him and deliver the remarks on his behalf. Distinguished participants, esteemed partners, leaders of farm organizations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this important webinar on farmer-led innovations for soil regeneration and health. Across Africa, soil is more than just a resource. It is life itself. It sustains our food systems, our economies, and the livelihoods of over 80 million family farmers represented by PAFO. Yet today, our soils are under unprecedented pressure from climate change, unsustainable practices, land degradation, and declining fertility. But there is a hope, and that hope lies with farmers. Farmers are not mere beneficiaries of innovation. They are innovators. Across our continent, they are leading the transformation, restoring degraded lands, adopting agroecological practices, integrating indigenous knowledge with modern science, and developing practical, scalable solutions for soil regeneration. Today's webinar, ladies and gentlemen, is therefore not just a discussion. It is a platform to recognize and elevate farmers-led solutions, share practical innovations that are already working on the ground, and strengthen collaboration between farmers, researchers, policymakers, and development partners, just to name but a few. As PAFO, an African Farmers Organization, we firmly believe that no soil regeneration strategy will succeed without placing farmers at the center. This aligns, therefore, directly with Africa's commitments under the Kampala Declaration, which has been launched in January last year by the extraordinary heads of states through their summit, where sustainable land management and resilience are critical pillars for transformation our agri-food systems. We must move from fragmented efforts to system-wide transformation, where farmer innovations are documented, financed, scaled, and embedded in national and continental policies. Let me emphasize on 3 key messages. Number 1, soil health is the foundation of food security and climate resilience. Without healthy soils, there is no sustainable agriculture. Number 2, farmer knowledge is a strategic asset. We must invent, protect it, and scale it. Number 3, partnership is very essential. Governments, research institutions, private sector, and development partners must work hand in hand with farmer organizations to accelerate impact. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar comes at a critical time when Africa is seeking solutions that are not only sustainable, but also driven and economically viable. Farmer-led innovations offer exactly that pathway. So I encourage, on behalf of the CEO of PAFO and PAFO at large, all participants to engage actively, share experiences, and identify opportunities for scaling these innovations across our regions and our nations. Together, let us move from soil degradation to soil regeneration, and from vulnerability to resilience. So with these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to wish you a productive and inspiring session. Over to you, moderator. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Wow, Amable, thank you so much. I think everyone needs to put on that react and give a warm round of applause for those inspiring words. Thank you so much. Yes, you see the applause coming in now, Mr. Amable. And thank you so much for your points, especially that this is not just a discussion, but this is a platform. And I think that really echoes and justifies why we're spending time together dedicated to this topic. So that was really fantastic. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in Rwanda one day, I hope. So thank you. And now we're coming to Kenya, to my Jirani. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to introduce Mr. Edward Mugambi. He is an engineer with Kenya's National Farmers Federation, KENAF, and he leads climate action initiatives and specializes in soil health, regenerative agriculture, and renewable energy ecosystems. So I think this expertise is perfect to provide a keynote words for us to set the scene on why we're here and what the role of farmers organizations play in this. So, Mr. Mugambi, and I hand the floor over to you. I see you're still muted, so I hope that you can unmute Mr. Edward Mugambi from KENEF. Let's see if that will work. Lucas? And for those of you who may not know KENAF, they have a fantastic annual meeting every year here in Kenya. And my team and I have had the pleasure of having a soil health monitoring stand and showing innovations. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Great. Edward, I see you've unmuted. Fantastic. So it's my pleasure, Mr. Edward Mugambi, engineer from KENAF, to provide some keynote remarks. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Lee, for this opportunity. My name is Edward Mugambi from Kenya National Farmers Federation, based in Nairobi, Kenya. And I am glad to be a participant in this very important topic on soil health and regeneration. I will give my presentation. Let me share the screen.
Great. Are you able to share your screen? Yes, we
I'm
see it. Fantastic.
sharing. You're able to see the screen?
We see your screen, and now you just need to go to PowerPoint and make sure that we're seeing your PowerPoint slides. Yes,
Yeah.
fantastic. And you have 10 minutes?
I
Great.
have 10 minutes to do this.
Yes. And then you just click on slideshow so we see the full screen.
Yes.
Asante sana. Tuna tayari.
Asante sana. Asante sana. Okay. Our webinar topic, from soil degradation to regeneration, and we are looking at how KENAF is translating Kenya's national soil policies into field practice through farmer-led innovations for soil regeneration and health. And we are looking at soil degradation in Kenya, and we note that a significant share of Kenya's agricultural land is degraded, with widespread soil acidity, especially the high pH levels, and having very low soil organic carbon, which really affects the productivity of smallholder farmers. And we are noting the soil nutrient mining is really costing the smallholder farmers substantial losses in productivity annually. And these can have actually been quantified in studies, although I don't have the numbers with me for this presentation. The KENAF role in the policy implementation has been one in capacity building and training. we have been implementing a project on integrated soil fertility management since the year 2024. And the key specific things that we do is training of lead farmers and the trainers of trainers on managing soil pH, on climate smart farming, and land preparation. The approach of this program has been equipping these technical people or sorry. Sorry for that. Okay. We have been equipping the TOTs, mainly youth, with the skills on how to identify nutrient deficiencies in soils and soil sampling techniques and analyzing and sharing the soil data with the farmers. KENAF also is a member of the National Technical and Advisory Committee, and we are involved in lobbying and advocacy. We're influencing the policy climate, the national policy climate, and representing the interest of our farmers on matters soil health and also allocation of government budgets in soil health management. Another area where KENAF is involved is in ring-greening and the afforestation program. In our strategic plan, KENAF wishes to have 10 billion trees planted nationally by 2030. This is a practice we are actively engaged in currently. On ISFM or integrated soil fertility, we believe that this is a core vehicle for regeneration, whereby we are capacity building on soil sampling and testing, building localized technical lead force. That is, so far, we have trained 200 youth as trainers who will continue disseminating the soil regenerative information to farmer groups using mobile diagnostic tools. The targeted training areas, as I have stated before, is on visual soil assessment, whereby you're able to look at the soil and be able to diagnose the problem and also come up with corrective measures. Then another area is the soil acidity levels, the pH management, micronutrients deficiency and identification, and agroecological practices, whereby we are able to either recommend cover cropping, minimum tillages, and all those agroecological practices that are meant to restore the soil health. The integrated soil fertility management project in Kenya, we have 47 administrative counties. 2 of them are not agricultural, so we have 45. And we piloted this project in 2 counties initially. And right now, we are rolling over the management, soil fertility management practices to all the other counties. We monitored the results in these counties that we piloted, and this table in this line shows the kind of data that we have. This is for maize. We have data for other cropping. I just picked on this to demonstrate the result and the success of the integrated soil management project that you're undertaking. And we are looking at maize yield. Before these interventions, you can see the yield per hectare as 1.8 tons. And after the implementation of soil management, soil fertility management practices, we have increased the yield to 2.4 tons per hectare. These are actuals recorded on the field, and this is a change of positive 33%, which shows we are heading in the right direction. Looking at the soil pH also, you can be able to see that we are moving to the right side of the scale from acidity towards the basic side. It is stabilizing. And fertilizer efficiency, whereby we
Hmm. I see that some
Apologies.
areas of Kenya are having, okay, go ahead. Great, you're back, Edward. Please go ahead, and you have about 3 more minutes.
All right, all right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What this means to our farmers is that our farmers are able to use fertilizer according to requirements other than the blanket recommendation. So various locations of farm, the farmer is able to know the fertilizer requirement and you apply according to what is demanded. Then we have subsidized input access. Through the implementation of these policies, our members are able to access subsidized fertilizers from the government and even seeds. And this is done through our KENAF membership platforms in the county levels and also in the local ward administrative levels. Then financial inclusion initiatives. We are implementing a farm pass platform known here in Kenya as Sauti ya Mkulima platform, SYM. This is a digital platform whereby we link the producers, the input suppliers, the financial institutions. So farmers are able to access credit facility for the farm inputs required to manage their soils. The innovations, the innovations that have emerged in our country case, we have digital soil mapping and testing, which is done by Calro, and we are working on it together across all the 45 counties. And this involves the use of mid-infrared machines for soil analysis, remote sensing, which identifies the nutrients names. Then our POTs are using ICT-driven monitoring, whereby the ICT tools and the KENAV USSD platform is used to receive real-time agricultural advisory services and soil management tips. And we are adopting the agripreneur-led sampling for the last mile delivery, whereby we are localizing the use that you are training in regions so that really the process is less costly. Now, the road ahead and the call to action is when the security of tenure is assured, then our farmers will be able to invest in long-term soil health. Then we are talking of, we are initializing farmers markets, whereby farmers sell directly and farmers with the healthy soils, especially those who are doing organic production, are able to sell directly to the market, to specialty stores, whereby quality is prioritized over the volumes. And we are saying we are intending to transform every farm into a carbon sink, meaning that improved soil health, whereby it will be able to retain water and even, the carbon sequestration. Thank you very much, Bill. Over to
Excellent.
you.
Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together, even if it's virtually, and give Mr. Mugambi a round of applause. You brought up so many important points, but myself being a scientist, I love to hear that a farmers organization is really focusing and putting a lot of attention on collecting soil samples, analyzing them using the latest technology, such as mid-infrared spectroscopy. And I invite everyone to the eCraft Lab, where we've been pioneering this method, because this is really about generating important evidence at the farm level, but also using the most recent innovations and accurate testing. So this is just music to my ears, and congratulations on all the work of KENAF. And we look forward to engaging again this year at your annual meeting. So thank you so much for the wonderful, wonderful presentation. And now we're going to have two scene setting presentations. One will stay in East Africa, in Tanzania, and the second presentation we will travel to West Africa, to Chad. So let's kickstart these scene-setting presentations. The first one will be by Mr. Ernest Ngumbi. He's an agronomist and project manager in Njombe Agricultural Development Organization. So karibu sana, Mr. Ngumbi. And he has over 13 years experience working and coordinating and managing community-based agricultural projects, and his work focused on sustainable resilience, agriculture, soil health, of course, that's why we're here, and supporting smallholder farmers. So asante sana, Ernest, karibu sana, and I give you, let's see, 10 minutes, kumi, dadika kumi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be part of this webinar meeting. So I'm going to share with you our experience as a farmers organization that we have been doing with farmers to regenerate the soil health so that they can improve the productivity. My presentation will start with introduction, short brief about NADO. NADO is a Njombe Agricultural Development Organization that is a member-based organization which have approximate 16,000 members and who are farmers and are dealing with different crops, as I mentioned there. And our organization have vision and a mission. So to meet this mission and vision, as NADO, we used to implement different projects aiming to reach the goal. So one of the projects that NADO implement is FORI project, and FORI project subtitled Building Resilience with Trees. So the project have a lot of things to do so that to improve the farmers' livelihood. And the project implemented in Tanzania with two farmers organization, that is NADO and the and the other partners like Research Institute, Sokoine University of Agriculture, who main role was to conduct different research and to come up with the different innovation basing on their findings. But also we have FFD, Food and Forest Development, who their main role was to provide technical service to NADO. So the project was implemented in Njombe region, as I said, in two districts, that is Njombe and Wanging'ombe. Through the project, next please. Through the project, we managed to conduct the building resilience tool 1, tool 2, and also soil analysis, whereby we are able to identify different challenges that are facing the soil status. So one of the challenge was soil compaction, extreme acidic, soil erosion, nutrient depletion, loss of soil organic matter, and the overuse of inorganic input. All these challenge leads to low productivity of the produce. So as an organization, in collaboration with farmers and other stakeholders, we managed to come up with a strategic action plan to see how we can manage and restore the soil health sustainably. So this is the workshop that we conducted and identified the challenge. Next. Yes, so the strategic action plan developed in a participatory and inclusive way was one to come up with conservation agriculture principles, agroforest, preparation and the use of soil amendments, and intercropping. This innovation was implemented based on the agroecological zone that
Seems like today is our day for
we have in our area. That is the upper zone. The difference between the zone with the amount of rain that receive per year. Next, please. So in conservation agriculture, we main focus on the three key principles. That is minimum tillage, retention of crop residues, and the crop rotation. So, practicing by farmers, it helps to improve soil structure and prevent degradation. Also, it increases soil organic matter as the crop residue that retained in the soil. It after decompose, it add some organic matters and also improve soil structure, as well as the practice. It helps to support biodiversity. That is the system in the soil. Also, the agroforest, we have some crop-friendly trees that we integrate with the crop in a farm. So we have Glycidia, Lucina, Sesbania, and Acacia. All this, it helps to in nitrogen fixation. Also, it is help to add soil organic matter through leaf litter and biomass drop down, and also enhance biodiversity and support beneficial organism in the soil. Another practice that we really emphasize farmers is the preparation and the use of soil amendments materials. We have a lot of amendments material like biochar, animal manure, compost, bokash, and ashes. These soil amendments, it help to improve soil organic. Also, it enhance nutrient availability, both macro and micro nutrients. For example, the compost and ashes, it has some trace elements which help to balance the soil pH. Also, it increase water and nutrient retention and soil structure. Also, it is strengthens soil microbial activities and regeneration. So, together with farmers, we used to train them how to make good compost, how to make biochar, and apply to their farm. Also, another practice is intercropping, that mixing crops. For example, we mix cereal crops with leguminous crops, but also with cover crops. So we use, for example, in Tanzania, maize with beans, soya beans, pumpkin, all those. It help, for example, leguminous crops, it help to fix nitrogen, as well as it help to retain the soil fertility and also prevent soil erosion. So it's a part of improving soil structure and fertility. We practice this intervention. This practice, we use some approaches to scale out to farmers. So one of the approach that we use is through experimental site and a demonstration plate. In the experimental site, we used to have a control site and a plot so that the farmers, in the experiment site, we set different treatments. So farmers, they have to learn the difference between the two, between the control plot and the experiment site, so that they can see which innovation, which practice are performing well and improve the soil status, as is public-private partnership and other collaboration. Here, we work very close with the local government authority extension officers, whereby we know that the project used to phase out. So because the extension officers are there, so they will continue training farmers, reminding farmers to continue applying through the project. So and also we use the research institute. For example, in Tanzania, we have Tanzania Research Institute in different region, but also we have Sokoine University of Agriculture. So we use this, our local research institute, which will be easily for farmers to reach farmers as after a project. Next. Next, please. Yeah, another scaling approach is P2P learning. This we use to allow farmers to conduct exchange visit among farmers so that they can learn each other. But also we have farmers organization to farmers organization exchange visit. As I said before, NADO, we collaborate with different farmers organization. So NADO used to visit, for example, Pelham, Tanzania. We learn a lot of agroecological principle that aims to improve soil status. Also, we have ANSAF. Those are the way of we learn and share with farmers. Another is farmers engagement through mobilizing farmers groups and organized farmers days. Here in Tanzania, we have special farmers day, we call Nane Nane. So different farmers from different region, they meet together and they share different principles they use in improving the soil status. Yeah, as I said, experiment site, as you can say, this is farmers themselves, they conduct different observation in the crop basing on what practice we have done.
Thank you. We're running out of time. Is this your last slide now?
Yeah, so this is just a monitoring system that we use. We use participatory monitoring with farmers. Farmers facilitator extension together. We see the progress and the impact of the innovation that we implement to the farmers and advise them accordingly. And also we conduct a regular visit in collaboration with those stakeholders that I mentioned, as well as tracking soil health, yield, and practice adopted. Next. Next. Yeah, I can conclude that continue farmer engagement with inclusion and the knowledge transfer will ensure long-term sustainability and resilience of farming system.
Wow, we're really having challenges with the internet today, as is usual. That's
As we
great.
as we have experienced this through the LED Research Innovation Project fall that integrating the local knowledge, it helped to the sustainability of the practice that we train farmers. And also sustainable soil health restoration depends on continuous collaboration, gender inclusion in farmer capacity building, active knowledge sharing through participatory approach, and access to resource and support. Just a single unit cannot manage to solve the challenge in soil, but in collaboration manner will help a lot. Yeah, thank you so much.
Asante Sana, I love your last slide. Healthy soil, healthy future. And I didn't hear in your presentation, but are you inviting us all to Njombe to see some of this in action? Because Njombe in Maradadi is a beautiful place in Tanzania, yes?
Yes, karibu sana.
Excellent. Let's give Ernest a round of applause. You see all the applause coming. Thank you so much for highlighting really concrete constraints that farmers are facing in terms of acidity, compaction, erosion, and real solutions, agroforestry, intercropping, soil amendments. This is exactly what we want to hear. And I see we have a few questions coming in, one for Edward, one for Kenaf, and one in general. So I'm taking note of these. After the next presenter, we'll take a pause and start answering and addressing some of these questions. So keep your questions coming. This is absolutely fantastic. So this is the time now where you can make sure you have the correct language on. So my language is on English because our next speaker is from Chad and will be speaking in French. And je ne parle pas français. So I am not very good at speaking French, but I'm really happy to welcome our next speaker, Ella Nzabu Vorbobe. She is the founder of Agrotech Scoops, and I'm very excited to learn about this because when I was reading her bio, it is very impressive. She has over 15 years of professional and associative experience at national, international level. She partners with regional platforms of farmers organizations of Central Africa and the Pan-African Farmers Organization. And these experiences have led Ella to establish the Agrotech Umbrella Cooperative of women and local product producers with the aim of supporting sustainable development in Chad through organic agriculture. Ella, bienvenue. I am so excited to listen to your intervention, and you also have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne, and thank you for the compliments. It's actually a pleasure for me to share in this webinar. So I'm going to start directly. Ella Nzabo. I am the founder of Agrotech Cooperative. Agrotech is an umbrella agri cooperative which has been created since 2017 to facilitate the population to consume local products and for the women and girls to be autonomous economically, and this helps in sustainable development. The objective of the cooperative is to promote socio-economic development of the youth, women, and the young girls through equality, gender equality, and also through training and programs so that they are able to be independent in the different areas. So the mission is to contribute first of all, and that is the vision for me. So I'm sorry, yes. The mission And the values of the cooperative is to actually have women who love agriculture, the young people who are actually working on in the agribusiness, and also the people who are interested in these activities. And so we have our values there. We also have our activities so that we have to promote solidarity, adding value. There's also fighting against the gender-based violence. There's also sustainable development, among other values, as you can see the other slide. So the objective of the cooperative to ensure that we add value to the local consumption of local products, support women and girls who are vulnerable, and also propose services that are innovative. And we also we help in fighting against gender-based violence. And our big activities is the sustainable vegetable. There is also the agribusiness transformation. We give support to income generating activities, training on women leadership, sensitization on nutrition and environment. The next slide. The other innovations, we have been able to do innovations for regenerating the soil and for soil health. And so we do these adapted to the local context. And so for the local context, we do training on biofertilizers, and also using biodigesters, which could actually be used to nourish the soils. And so this helps in having sustainable management of the. So we also have crop diversification so that we can secure production. We also do rotation of crops, and we have the short season crops and the long season crops, and we also strengthen seeds that are adapted to climate change, given that climate change is a reality. And so we ensure that we strengthen seeds that are adapted to climate change. And you can see the photos there, and on the soil fertility using organic matter. And so we use composting. We also use the wastes that are dried, so that these can actually be used in producing vegetables and also cereals. We also do crop rotation, that is between the cereals and the legumes. We also have the green fertilizer, because these could be used during the short periods before doing the next main crop. There is also the reduction of the work labor, and so we also have to the soil coverage that is retained, so that we can limit erosion and ensure soil fertility. And so here you can see the photos which shows what we did, and this is through the biofertilizers that are liquid, and we also have what is solid. And so we wanted to show in practice within the cooperative to allow producers of the different producers who are in these areas, because we are in Charibagimi, which is the western part of Chad. And so through partners, we introduce these methods of producing liquid biofertilizers based on microorganisms that are beneficial. And also which represents a sustainable alternative that is that can replace the chemical fertilizer. The objective of this for the members, this training, it is actually to help them understand the theory and also the fermentation and soil regeneration, to allow also them to understand the principles of the basis of soil fertility and also the role of microorganism, and also to understand the protocol of how to put in place a biodigester that is at a small scale for the production of biofertilizers that are liquid. There is also the to produce the aerobic and anaerobic material, and so we do this in practice within our umbrella organization. And here you can actually see what we have done with women for the production of that is for the shorter season where we do vegetables. You can also see here women are producing. We support these women so that we help them to understand how to do this production using means that will help in nourishing the soul, and so that they can feed the community. And you can see what we are doing in Bakara. These are women who are working on the land, and they go to the market. And so they work in synergy, the women who are producing and also those who are selling. And so we have a chain that is more strong. The next slide. Yes, here, these are some of the products that we do. You can see this is tomato. And so we have gombo. And this is the point where we sell our products that we process locally, and we sell to the people within the capital. And so this is what we do. The next slide. I think I have come to the end of my presentation. So thank you very much. And so I'm waiting for questions from you and also discussions. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Merci beaucoup, Ella. This was fantastic. And look at all the congratulations that everyone is giving you. And thank you for sharing the beautiful photos of women in the fields regenerating the soil. I absolutely love that. I felt like we were on the ground with you. So I would like to propose that we take a few questions right now. So if I could get Ella, Edward, Amable, and Gumbi, and all spotlighted, then we could have a little intervention to answer some of the panels. So if we could, Lucas, have some of the other previous presenters spotlighted so that we could answer some questions. So I see we have a number of questions, and do I also see some hands up? So I see Khalil has written so many questions in the chat. I encourage our speakers to answer some of them in the chat. And I also saw, so maybe we could take one of the questions about your questions, Khalil, about scaling, scaling some of these interventions. And then I think there's two hands up. So Lucas, can you help me with the hands up and they can ask their questions live? Okay, and then there's a question from Kenaf. So if Kenaf can answer that question, I think that would be fantastic. On how has Kenaf been mapping soils, farmers, and agro dealers? So Mr. Edward, would you like to answer that question, Edward?
Thank you very much. I would say the process is ongoing, the e-mapping process. First, we are doing it under the FarmPass platform, which I called Sauti ya Mkulima in Kenya, whereby we are onboarding our members who are people who are already members of the federation. We have also partnered with an organization called Extension Africa, where we are envisaged to onboard more members in our federation, Kenya. Kenya has approximately 7 million farmers, and we have only managed to onboard 1.6 members in our organization. So I would say we have not been able to map all the Kenyan farmers into the platform. Then on the agro dealers, the Extension Africa platform is the one that is helping us to map the people who are dealing on a supply of farm inputs, farm technologies, linking them to our farmers. We are also recruiting agents under that Extension Africa platform, whereby one agent will be taking care of 200 farmers. So that is where we are. It is an ongoing process, and we are hoping we'll be making positive strides. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And you see, there was a lot of interest in your work and the relationship between the farmers organization and research. And I think that's fantastic. I see two hands are up, Jancy and Estrella. Before I get to Jancy and Estrella, I would like Mamadou's question to come in. She wrote it in French, but I was able to Google translate it to essentially what is the role of youth in soil regeneration. So Ella, would you like to take that question about the role of youth in soil regeneration? Over to you, Ella.
Ok, merci bien. Je parle ici par rapport à la régénération du sol parce que nous sommes confrontés à un changement climatique qui est un peu sensible ces derniers temps. Dans la jeunesse devait se mettre au travail, la jeunesse devait être dans l'innovation pour pouvoir faire face à ces défis qui est général dans le monde, qui attaque les producteurs, qui attaque, c'est-à-dire tous les rendements, ce qui est dans la valorisation et la régénération pour le sol. Donc, c'est la jeunesse qui... Oui, vous m'entendez?
Yes, oui.
Ok. Donc, j'aimerais dire, comme la personne a demandé quelle est l'importance de la jeunesse dans cette lutte, donc moi je me dis c'est la jeunesse qui doit prendre la relève pour le futur. Donc la jeunesse devait innover, la jeunesse devait affronter ces défis-là et puis réfléchir comment faire pour pallier à cette difficulté que le monde est en train de pouvoir chercher cette solution. Alors, je pense que la place de la jeunesse est primordiale dans cette lutte.
Excellent. I completely agree. The youth is the future, Ella. So thank you so much. And thank you, Mamadou, for bringing that question. So let's bring two voices in. Jancy, I think you were able to unmute. Jancy? Seems we're having some technical difficulties. So we will go to Estrella. Estrella, please come in. Just needs to be able to unmute yourself.
Estrella, unmute yourself, please. I already allowed you to unmute. Could you please unmute? Thanks.
And I also see a hand up from Josephine. Josephine, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think.
Excellent. Please go ahead, Josephine. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon to all. I was very interested on the presentations, and I would like to ask Agritech what for them is seed that is adapted to climate change. I want to know more about them, who is producing them, and how it's used by peasants. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Josephine. So Ella, one more for you on seeds that are climate resilient and their availability. Ella. And then go ahead.
Oui, ok, merci. Concernant les semences, nous avons plusieurs fois les variétés de semences qui sont adaptées au rendement qui est d'abord contre-saison et puis il y a aussi les semences à pleine saison. Donc, je pense qu'il va falloir voir selon les semences, il y a les semences qui sont adaptées aux certains climats qui donnent de bons rendements. Et pour cela, moi, je profite pour dire à nos participants qu'il y a plusieurs variétés de semences ces derniers temps-ci qui est adaptée. Il y a les semences aussi précoces qui peut aussi pallier à ce souci. Parce que quand on prend les semences à long terme, c'est que si parfois on n'arrive pas à maturité et puis on n'a pas un rendement qui est voulu. Donc, si c'est des semences précoces, on a vite le rendement et puis on a vite aussi de temps pour pouvoir refaire autre production qui pourront aussi pallier à cette solution. Merci.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we have one last question for Ernest Ngumbi from Njombe Agricultural Development Organization. Mr. Ernest, there is a number of questions about how to scale some of these agroecological approaches that you mentioned, agroforestry, intercropping, soil amendments. Could you maybe talk about some of the opportunities to scale this across large numbers of hectares to respond to the food and nutrition security issues? So Ernest, over to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Yeah, we practice different innovations to farmers, as I mentioned during my presentation. So we still are struggling on scaling up so that we can reach more farmers. Our strategy is to use facilitators. We call them farmers facilitators. We choose the farmers representative and then capacitate them through TOT, trainers of training, so that they can continue helping other farmers. That is one. The second, we use the collaboration with local government authorities, whereby during implementing this innovation, we invite the local government extension officers so that because they are in almost every village there is a extension officer, so they can help us to continue training farmers and emphasizing them to adopting. But also we use some programs that government developed it. Here in Tanzania, we have some initiatives that the government insists to use during conducting capacity building to farmers. For example, they have distributed the soil toolkit in each district. So the local government extension officer, they use it to help farmers to take soil sample and analyze and identify what is needed to add in the soil, and they used it to share with other uh, developing agents so that they can use them. And that soil toolkit they use with farmers for free. So that is one way another that we can scale out this innovation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Trainers of trainers, local government, and let's tie it in to what Amable said, our friend from PAFO in Rwanda. He mentioned the commitment at the continental level, the CAADP, Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Plan, where we have the opportunity to report on improved soil health. We have the Nairobi Declaration, which aims to restore 30% of all degraded agricultural soil. So I think your points from the local community to training to local government to continental commitments to really scale healthy soil solutions. So thank you so much. I see more people have their hands up. I encourage you to write your question in the chat. We're having some small difficulty with the mics, but please write your question in the chat. I'd like us to move onto the panel discussion. But before I do, let's give a round of applause for Amable, Edward, Ella, and Gombi, all of our speakers, our presenters, please. That was just fantastic. And I hope everyone really feels like they can go into the farm, dig in the soil, plant trees for agroforestry, create soil amendments. Edward giving us real tangible solutions from Kenya and KENAF and partnering with research. So really, you see all the applause are coming in. I just wanted to, congratulate all of you so much. And with that, we're going to move on to our panel discussion. And I see there's even more questions coming in, and we'll leave that for the Q&A. So thank you so much to our part one of our webinar series. And we're now going to move on to our panel. And this panel is not going to get away easy. I have very difficult questions for them about policy, technical questions, and evidence. So first, let me please welcome Mr. Drem Tayang Tukul. He is the coordinator for the Regional Platform of Farmers Organization of Central Africa. And if anyone was listening, Ella also partners with ProPac. So we're just making the connection from panel to panel. He is also from Chad, and in his role, he coordinates activities including implementation of projects, programs, negotiations, development of agricultural public policies. I really want to hear about those. I'm very excited about public policies. And he's an expert in agricultural entrepreneurship. So I might add some finance questions to this round because I think that's really important. So bienvenue, Drem. I'm very happy to have you on this panel. And let's not forget about Europe. We've been very Africa focused, and I'm very happy. I'm also based in Nairobi, but I'm really excited to invite Beati Samaras. She's an agricultural entrepreneur with the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture. She's from, I'm going to point out one very cool thing. You have many cool things in your bio. She's running a regenerative farm called Panjiao in Greece with award-winning olive oil and heading composting operation and the lab, the Panjiao Living Soil for Biological Analysis. And I don't think we can even talk enough about the importance of soil biology. I already said soil is the biologically active layer of the Earth's surface. So I'm really looking forward to that. So big warm welcome. And you guys can also add on to your bios. So let's start with Beati. And we really want to hear about policy. So we'll get in the nitty-gritty on entrepreneurship and other things, but we've just heard about challenges from farmers and farmer organizations. But could you talk about what policymakers in Europe are doing to incentivize farmers and their organizations to scale regenerative and agroecological practices? Over to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Beautiful introduction. Yes, let's jump right in because they are doing a lot, which first of all is good. And we see there's movement, there's discussions as EARA, so with the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture. We are now almost bi-weekly in the European Parliament. There's communications happening, there's lots of policy happening. So all that is beautiful and wonderful. I think the biggest thing we need to think about, and we keep addressing that with EARA, is that very much when we talk about policy, not only is it still very diverse across different countries, but it's always principles based. And that is putting the farmers in a very challenging situations because what they need in their operation is so context specific that a principle might work for one farm and it's this beautiful thing to do, but for another one, something else might be completely more effective. And they're sometimes prevented doing the right things because the incentivation is for the principles that a group of experts sat down and said, like, this is what we need to focus on, this is what we need to start with. So I think that's the big umbrella under which we are operating and trying to shift that a little bit more towards giving the farmers the responsibilities and also giving back some sort of freedom, because usually they really do know best. I mean, we talked so much about peer exchange, knowledge exchange, about programs, training the trainers and all that. So the knowledge usually is very much there on the farmer side if they are interested. And most of the times they just happen to know better than someone sitting in an office writing up the policy, even though, yes, we do try to influence that. So that's that. I think the big topics are almost globally being looked into. So one is definitely minimizing soil disturbance. That's great that is being looked at. Covering the soil, really just getting to the idea that all of those plain fields without any soil cover, that is just painful. So that is shifting, and that is shifting also in the offices of policymakers and research and all of that. Animal integration is another big one. And we are slowly, but really slowly moving away from the idea of size is just in terms of hectares. It's not just that, it also goes into the soil and which height. So really what we are trying to summarize that as is that the policies need to make sure that we are utilizing as much photosynthesis as possible. Because if we achieve that, it's such a simple summary, but if we can achieve that, then the soil is being taken care of and the practices are being taken care of, and it really just makes it easy to understand for policymakers.
I love that. I love that, connecting the policy to what we want to achieve. And then I also really like to, my previous mentor, Pedro Sanchez, he always talks about exploiting the whole soil profile. So sometimes we're only thinking about the topsoil, but roots and the different rooting architectures can really exploit 1 meter deep, 1.5 meter deep. And so I really loved, I was visualizing when you were talking, keeping the soil covered. And so thank you so much. And so now, Drem, let's go to Africa. We actually are at a really exciting time on this continent with some of the best, most exciting agricultural policies. So please, we know there's a lot of momentum. What do we need to do better with these policies in Africa to make sure that we're having impact on the ground? So over to you, Drem, and your experience.
Thank you. Thank you. I also thank the presenters for the information that they shared with us. And regarding policies in Africa on how to manage soil, I think Imable mentioned that in his opening speech. talked about CADIP process, which was all about the resilience in the alimentary system in Africa, promotion of sustainable promotion of soil health, and also the different countries have the national programs in agricultural investments which take into the management of soils at the national level, and especially soil management. We put accent on emphasis on in ensuring that the management of issues around acidity, erosion, issues around fertility, soil fertility, microbiology in a general manner, which is actually run or managed by the different policies. But in the practice, it's actually the farmers who do this, and they do it with the means that sometimes they don't have sufficient means. But as the presenters were saying, with the ally that she was explaining what they do with the women in the different practices. It's not just for one agricultural produce. They also talked about organic fertilizer. Look, there are several things that you do at the same time. Be able to participate in the management of soil fertility, the regeneration of soil generally. PAC as an organization, a regional farmers organization, we have different members in the different countries in Central Africa. We're working with them to be able to improve this soil management. We have been trying to promote agroecology.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's really important. And it also resonates with what Viati, and you can please tell me how to say your name correctly, was talking about, like making sure these policies are actually connecting with, well, you said photosynthesis, but what's happening on the ground. And I think that's really important. I want to jump to the evidence question. So I've already alluded that my expertise is soil science, and we've been implementing a systematic monitoring protocol in 46 countries across the tropics to collect systematic data on soil health, land degradation, and vegetation diversity. So I'm already sold on the importance of data and evidence, but I want to break these down. The first question, sticking to policy, is what are your suggestions for bringing these data and evidence to policymakers so that we can actually influence the policy? The second part on the second round will be on financing, because you're both in entrepreneurial. So Viati, starting with you, how can we bring these data to life, this evidence to influence the policy? Over to you. And it's not an easy question, so I don't expect you to have all the answers, but your perspective.
No, it's definitely not. But it's a beautiful question also because we skipped that in the introduction. But my background is mathematics and I just love data. My husband is a data geek, so it's very much matching. There's two things to it. One is, again, very much in line with what we said earlier, like what is needed on the farm, like what is really practical. There's just beautiful research out there and soil data and like so many metrics that we can measure and that are meaningful and all of that. However, adding that as a burden for the usual farmer and applying all of the different soil tests, all of the different measurements, taking care of that, involving that is a complete challenge in its own. And it's very much usually with a financial burden that is left at the farmer. So I think the most important thing is finding something that is actually practical, that farmers can actually work with. So with ERA, we did a benchmarking report comparing different MRV models, really looking at like what's out there, what is being measured, is it doable for the farmers? That's the first step. And then the second step is making that lively for policymakers and what can they actually take out from it. So really what is moving the needle, but also for the amount of effort we are putting in, where can we get the most out of it? And a lot of things that we are presenting there is not so much focusing on soil health, even though I'm absolutely a believer and advocate and all of that. It's a very alien concept for someone who's not directly in touch with it. So sometimes it's much more useful to present how much increases our resilience and food sovereignty based on the different soil health measures. How much more water can we absorb, the better the soil is. We have just this week published a paper on risk management because the Valencia flood, I'm not sure if you got to hear about it in Africa, but it was a huge topic in Europe. Crazy costs like soil erosion. And we just had the numbers adding up, but also from a case study showing that the surrounding regenerative farms were very much capable of absorbing all that extra water. So we wouldn't have such an extreme event. And that is usually a lot more efficient in speaking the language of policymakers, politicians, etc. So translating what those measurements and data items actually mean. And then translating again also to the farmers, like, what is the minimum that we can require from you? And another big one, you didn't ask for that, but I think it's super important to keep that in mind as well, is that we are already drifting away that we are measuring a lot on the farm, but the farmers are not owning the data. So we are again moving towards an extractive model. So we find it super important to make sure that the farmer is still in control of the data, not to manipulate it, but really to own it because there's value in it. So that would be my, sorry, very long answer to that.
No, fantastic. So I really love that, translating soil health into terms that farmers can connect with. So I'd love to hear in the chat what farmers on this call think of, and more in terms of how much water can we store, food sovereignty. That's fantastic. And of course, we have to say it every time, data governance and who owns these data. That is so great. So Drem, the hard question is coming to you now. I've given you time to think. Where do you see the role of these data and evidence in terms of influencing policy and decision making?
Generally, this data is important because it helps us to put proposals that when we're getting into negotiations with the decision makers or when we are doing advocacy work, it helps us to show certain evidence and to tell them, now these are the consequences that we have. You have bad soil management, how it can affect agriculture, how it can affect the volumes in our harvest. We can talk about these, the volumes, because they know that if what we get at the end of the season is not enough for the families, it's going to be difficult. It can create problems. So when you have the data, it supports us in our advocacy work. When we go to the decision makers, it helps us to influence the making of certain decisions in favor of farmers. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Drem. The translator for me translated your response into data can support our advocacy work. And I just love that so much. And I'm going to reach out to you so we can write a brief on this because we're actually working on a youth demystifying soil data by youth. And I think that's a really important aspect. So how data can support the advocacy, that's fantastic. Now listen, in both of your bios, there was an entrepreneurial element. So Drem, I'd like to start with you. What ideas do you have to bring financial incentives to farmers for investing in soil health? And maybe you can even tie that in with the data and evidence. So Drem, it's not an easy question, but I know a lot of your work is revolving around this, how we can bring finances to farmers for investing in their soil. So any experience, any ideas that you want to share? Over to you, Drem.
Thank you. Now, for the issue of soil regeneration with the data and entrepreneurship, I put this in the point of profitability in the long term. When you talk about the long term, you are talking about sustainability in the sense that for a long time, farmers we were actually promoting chemical fertilizers and even other chemical products. And at a certain point, they can help us boost production and also increase incomes for farmers. But after that, it started going down because the soils lost their fertility. And we can actually see the reduction in the volume during harvest. And the soils can no longer regenerate. Is given the demographic growth, that is a problem. And we can no longer have enough time for this production. So it is important to regenerate the soil. For this reason that, as I was saying, have done the promotion of agroecology. Here, it's an issue of giving to soils the capacity to give to the farmer what they expect as a harvest in terms of quantity and quality, and to allow the farmer to have this productivity even in areas where the soil has gone through the degradation, help them increase the productivity and their income also. But if you go beyond the question of income, is also this issue health, about health, because the use of chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides, they have an effect on the health of farmers. But generally speaking, even for public health, it has an impact on farmers because the food that comes out of this agriculture, they affect the health of the population in general. And it means that we must invest in the population by the government. That is something, a cost that we could have avoided with the natural regeneration of soils. And I think we have to think about all these aspects. We try to take into consideration, bring up arguments, convince the government and the decision makers to explain to them why they must go for the sustainable regeneration. If you also talk to farmers and tell them the gains they can have if they work on the health, this health of the soils in a sustainable manner. And I think that these economic and health issues which are going to be useful. They have a positive impact on the farmer in the long term, including on their health, and also so they're investing in also in their health and in their agriculture. Thank you.
Fantastic. And you brought up so many new issues that we could have a whole separate webinar. Healthy soil producing healthier food, more nutrient-dense food, and healthier people and animals, 100%. And this is why we're here, right? Because soil health and soil fertility has been declining, and we're expecting so much from soil. And it just is really hard for degraded soil to, deliver on all that we expect from it: biodiversity, nutrients, carbon, water holding capacity. So Drem, clearly you have your hands in the soil every day because you're speaking so clearly about what needs to happen. And I want to appreciate this perspective. And we're going to go to Q&A, but Beatty, please, finances. How can we get money in the hands of the farmers for improving their soil health? Over to you.
Yes, absolutely needed. Because it's just an amazing job that most farmers out there are doing. And the thing for me personally, but also with the ARA, is always we need to work on all different levels to ensure that everyone who's benefiting from all of the services is paying a fair share. And that is actually not too much, but if everybody would, the farmer would be completely settled in terms of profitability. Because like Dram said, I mean, there's so much about the nutrition, about the health, about the environmental services, about social and economic aspects from the farm directly. All of that right now is just being taken for granted, including in the financial industry. So even the financial industry is making a lot of profit from agriculture, while we still have at the same time a lot of farmers struggling and having really hard times paying off their debts. The bank, however, is still getting their interest. So there's a huge disbalance, absolutely. And so the two things we mainly focus on, one is what I'm promoting here locally and for our own farm, is really just repeating again what Ram said, not so much focusing on how can we get them to get more money, but first of all, really showing that it works. That's why we are a lighthouse farm and a living lab, and showing how far you can get without additional fertilizers that you need to purchase, without, Dre mentioned it, like so many chemicals to avoid pests and disease and whatever. So to make sure that even if we can't improve on the income side, we can improve a lot on the output side and on the cost side. So expenses need to go down, and that is one of the key driver for a lot of farmers. There is also, fortunately, a community of consumers out there that are willing to pay more for really nutritional products, and from agroecological farms, regenerative farms, etc. And I think it's only fair to start with that consumer group first, and again, to show that it works. And then there's the other level again. So as an organization, farmers organization, we are working with the banks, with the insurers, with different industries, with the supply chains and all of that, to make sure that their business is also staying in touch with the focus on soil and paying back the farmers and incorporating all of that so that it also makes sense in the bigger picture.
Great insights, really important. And yes, demonstrate what works where for whom. I think that's the real touch point or entry point for that collaboration between farmers, farm organizations, research, policy. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I want to open the floor for a few questions. I see Patient has their hand up, but there's been a few questions in the chat about scaling. Amable, are you still there from PAFO? Because if there's an organization that could possibly answer this question, it could be the Pan-African Farmers Organization, which is the voice of more than 80 million African farmers integrated into nearly 80 national organization unions, federations, cooperatives. So I thought maybe we should bring you in, Amable, to talk about scaling. So how we move from pilots to scaling, what lessons learned do you have? What needs to be in place? Is it policy? Is it financing? Is it farmer will? So thank you so much for allowing me to bring you in spontaneously with no prior warning. Over to you, Amable.
Thank you very much for such question. I think it's a very critical question. First and foremost, scaling plays paramount role, because we have seen cases from Kenya, we've seen cases, experiences from Tanzania, from Chad, and there are a lot of experiences. So scaling up those experiences and knowledge is very critical. So at PAFO level, we take this into account because it's actually one of our priorities, our works. And let me just give you examples of what we do and what we are intending to continuously do in the future. We have what we call Exchange Platform. It's an initiative that is designed to acknowledge and facilitate the exchanges of knowledge. Various kind of knowledge among farm organizations and partners across Africa. We do this in collaboration with AHA. AHA is I think, for those who don't know, it's one of the 13 agri-agencies of AgriCord. So we have been working on this. We tackle on various topics, thematics in line with soil, with production, with trade. I mean, anything that is around farming, because farming is cross-cutting. So the program is running. It has started, I think it's about 3 years back, and it is still ongoing. So it's one of the practical initiative we have at PAFO, which is in the same line. And we are transitioning this initiative to what we call PAFO Farmers Academy. PAFO Farmers Academy comes in as a very strategic platform whereby we have this solid foundation to continue advancing, sharing, scaling up the skills. And with PAFO Farmers Academy, we will continue to have this exchange platform, but also this kind of webinars they fall under this PAFO Farmers Academy. We have what we call innovation series. It's another program whereby we invite entrepreneurs, agripreneurs who have been showcasing good innovations in different corners of Africa and even Europe. We do this in collaboration with Collid. We have so many interesting sessions. I think it's within that vein to scale up the skills so that we can maximize the impact. And we also have other various initiatives. For instance, we have what we call women leaders training. Now, involving women, I like the case of Chad, where we have seen rural women sharing, putting together efforts, working more closely. I think that's very, very important. So we have been training women. December last year, we trained 20 women from 20 different countries of Africa. In May, we are planning to train other 20 women leaders from Frankfurt side. So there are so many ongoing initiatives, and we will continue. We have so many coming webinars on Kampala Declaration, highlighting some of the strategic objectives of Kampala, talking about the governance, talking about industrialization, agro-industrialization. So we do more, but we are looking at doing more and more again in the near future. And always these kind of initiatives appear on our social networks and the website. So feel free to contact us and let us know whether we can also.
Amable, thank you so much. That was such a fantastic answer. And clearly, a lot is going on at PAFO. And I would like to invite Edward and then Drem to also answer this question. So I really want to appreciate what Amable said. And we do have this opportunity with CADUP here on the continent. And for those of you who don't know, there is a soil health monitoring task force. And I think I have an idea, thank you, Katya, that we need to make sure farmer organization is on that task force. As co-lead of the task force, I'm pretty sure I can make that happen. And we have an opportunity to include one soil health indicator, one only, that member states will have to report on every 2 years starting next year. So yes, we want all the indicators, but we can only ask governments for one. So I thank you so much for, making sure we're connecting this conversation with some of the big policy initiatives. So Edward, maybe just in a couple minutes, could you maybe highlight some opportunity for scaling, for moving beyond pilots to really scale some of these solutions in Kenya and with KENAF? And then Drem, you're going to get the same question. So be ready for your answer after Edward.
Thank you for once again giving me this opportunity. And before I forget, may I welcome you to Kenya in June, between June 8th and 11th. Kenya is hosting the World Farmers Organization General Assembly this year. So we might concentrate on soil health and forget the invite. So welcome. Maybe to talk about scaling, I didn't mention in my presentation about the integrated soil fertility management. I will give an example. What we did in Kenya is we started with 2 counties piloting. And during the pilot stage, we reached out up to about 5,000 farmers with over 200 training of trainers trained. Those are still continuing with the knowledge dissemination and working with the farmer groups, taking soil samples, testing and giving them results, and actually monitoring and documenting results. So our next phase is we are rolling out the project to 6 more Kenyan counties, whereby we are targeting 200,000 farmers. That is already, okay, we are already planning and doing this. And after that, we are going to scale to all the 45 agricultural counties. And from the piloting results that we have achieved, we believe this is possible and it is doable. And we are in it. Thank you very much.
It is possible. I love it. Okay, Drem, over to you in terms of scaling and what techniques. You already mentioned some opportunities, and now is your opportunity to expand. Over to you, Drem. Merci.
So thank you very much. It is important to upscale these instead of remaining at a small scale level. So the problem will not be resolved if you remain at the pilot, and yet we have problems linked to climate change. And so in PROPAC, as I had said, we have decided to promote agroecology, and so we do this at different level within the country, where we have the farmer organizations, we have centers, agroecological centers, where we do training to different members. That is through the field sites and all that. And beyond the knowledge, we have the use of these practices and knowledge. And here we do advocacy to the state, so that they can increase the budget to agriculture, and also the state itself should plan the agroecological transition in their budget, so that the national budget is actually taking into account this, so that they have funds for agroecological transition. So everybody talks about transition, but at the end of it, we do not see clearly funds that are allocated by the government. And so they need to put funds. So we are doing advocacy. And I would also like to add, so financing that we get through the partners, we avail this to farmers so that they can develop their activities. And in PROPAC, we have put in place a framework for consultants between the farmer organization and research. This framework, they meet every 2 years, where the directors of the institutions, the research institutions, that is from regional, national, we discuss the problems that farmers have, and together we identify the research problem, and we participate in doing this research, so that at the end, the results are easily adopted by the farmers. And so these are issues for regeneration, and these are things that we do. And so we get solutions. And whenever we have solutions, it becomes a problem for research. And this is how we work on upscaling whatever we do. Thank you.
Wow. So, Drem, that was such a great answer, because you tied it back to financing, how we were discussing the need for public investment in soil health. So that was really important. And thank you so much. So, Beati, I just want to give you an opportunity to really talk about maybe some mechanisms that you've experienced, and maybe in Europe, about how to scale, and what lessons learned we can have in this peer-to-peer learning across continents, over the oceans. through Zoom.
Sure. I will try to skip though all of the beautiful things that have been said already because they apply just as much for Europe, from policy, from funding, from knowledge exchange, from associations, from reaching out and all of that good stuff, which is definitely needed. So the few things that I would like to add where I think it's important to not put all of our focus on, but take into account as well. And we already touched on it a little bit, but one is what level of payment do we think farmers should have? So that's a big one for us. And while a lot of our farmers in the association also need to rely on volunteers helping out on their farms, we also do appreciate that that's not the way to go. So we really need to make it attractive as a job profile as well. So we launched an apprenticeship program where people working on the farm and going through a really intense period are being paid well by EARA, and we arranged funding for that. But also the farmer who's hosting them is getting paid back. So to make it financially viable as well. And that obviously makes it suddenly from a volunteer or a vacation gig, or I'm playing with the idea of becoming a farmer, to a profitable role model. So that is one where I think there's really a lot of success in that, and just communicating also how much more attractive it is to farm with a focus on soil health, because life on our farms is very different to conventional farming. So that needs to be out there as well. And very much in line with that is also consumer education. The more we can actually increase demand for products that are taking into account soil health, not only coming from the farm level, there's of course lots more to soil health than just agriculture. But the more we can actually show that this is not just to save environment, which obviously is super important and great, but what's in it for the consumers? What is the other side looking at? What is about the farmer's livelihood? What is about biodiversity? We mentioned the nutrition, like so many aspects of that to really increase demand. Because obviously, if the demand would outgrow conventional products, we wouldn't have to have this discussion, because all of this supply chain would shift very much to soil health and beneficial farming. And then the next one, a big one for us on the farm, because we are surrounded by extreme conservative agricultural farmers here. So the amount of just everything naughty that you can imagine being sprayed and being put on the fields is very high here around me. And Ara has taught me the concept of unity in diversity, making sure that despite having different approaches, despite maybe not being all at the same level yet, it's so important to find this unity in diversity as well. So, for example, we very much also advocate for including conservation agriculture, which might offset some people from the agroecology side. Yes, definitely, but it's so important to have both sitting on the table and working together to actually get somewhere. Because if we have these small groups fighting against each other, trying to positioning themselves, organic versus agroecology versus regenerative, all of that, we are not going to get somewhere. So that's a really important one, I think, coming to sit down, trying to agree on what is the minimum that we can agree on when it comes to soil health, and pushing for that together.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for bringing the aspect of consumer education. If consumers are demanding healthier food and healthier farms, then that's another way to drive it. So I think we've really shaped this conversation from the soil, through the policy, through the demand. I wanted to just bring in two more questions. We don't have time to answer them because I want to give the floor to the AgriCord CEO, but I wanted to read them aloud so that they're brought into the conversation. So one was about, should we be more and more thinking of the relationship of soil biodiversity into soil health discussions? And how does the panel feel we should go about trying to win the hearts and minds of farmers in this way. And that's from Grant Campbell. And obviously we're all big advocates for soil biodiversity here. So I wanted to make sure that that was brought in. And then Joyce Matua from Hatua Achievers in Kenya had a question for Edward Mugambi, and you can answer it in the chat. But this is pretty important and goes to policy. She says women run 70% of farms, but only 22% lead FOs, farmer organizations, I'm guessing. How should Kenya's Cooperative Act change so FOs drive inclusive soil carbon projects? So those are not easy questions. Luckily, we don't have time to answer them live, but I wanted to appreciate that. And with that, I would just like to thank our panelists. I'd like everyone to put their hands together, give you guys some appreciation and love, and congratulations on the tough questions off script. Drem and Beatty, you did fantastic. Thanks for sharing your insights. Thank you so much. And look at all this love you're getting. Awesome. Great. Great. So now I have to be honest. I asked, can we really fill 2 hours? And now we're at the almost 2 hour mark, and I want to just keep going. So I am just so impressed with the depth of the conversations, with the depth of knowledge from across the continent and through Europe. I mean, this has just been such a fantastic and enlightening discussion. I really want to appreciate everyone. And we've heard a lot about PAFO, but have we heard a lot about AgriCord? So AgriCord was founded in 2003, and it is now a global alliance of 13 agri-agencies mandated by farmers' organizations from their respective countries. The mission is to promote and help build farmers' organizations and cooperatives through, guess what? Peer-to-peer approach, just like what we've been doing. And in the long term and in a structural way to organize family farmers in an effective, efficient, inclusive, and democratic manner. So I am really honored to invite the CEO of AgriCord, Katia Vuri, to share your reflections. And goodness, it's going to be hard because we really spanned a lot of topics. So over to you, Katia.
And Lian for great moderation, and all the panelists and participants. And I don't think we have to worry too much about getting mindset change if we have such wonderful champions who remind how important soil health is. And one message that is coming out very clear and loud here, and I hope that we also find ways to get it even further in different type of circles. Farmers and farmer organizations are already really leading the way in restoring soil health, supported then by experts and researchers, as we heard from Drem and people like Lian and her colleagues. And from practical experience that were shared today, and we know that there are many more also, the knowledge, commitment, and innovations are already there. So that's great news. And what we need now is faster scaling. And the scaling is also happening, and often it is led by farmers' organizations. Just some examples, there are many more, but for example, in Burundi, CAPAD, the National Farmer Organization, is providing extension service for agroecological practices, for soil health, etc., for hundreds of thousands of farmers who are doing it in their way, because we know that each farmer then tweaks the things a little bit. And where we then are lacking is the enabling policies and smarter and better targeted subsidies, because we are spending a lot of money in Europe, even in Africa, for subsidies for agriculture. And unfortunately, they are going to the wrong spots. So if we can change that, that already helps a lot. And if we also then do what Beata was advocating, that see that everybody pays the fair share as a consumer, as a processor, etc., for all the work that farmers do for keeping the soil healthy and productive. And that means that we would then have ecosystem service payment schemes that work. That helps a lot already. And then one thing, we need the monitoring systems, and we are very happy that for that also solutions are there, but that is also now something we really need to scale, the monitoring system, so that we can prove that it's working and that soil is getting healthier. And so at AgriCord, we remain committed to this agenda, supporting farmers' organization, because healthy soils are the foundation of resilient farms, food security, health, nutrition, and climate action. So, as said, I did it. I didn't even need the 10 minutes because I'm Finn and I've been living outside my native country, but that stays. We say our message quite concisely normally. One thing still, that we are deeply grateful that we have financial partners like European Commission, who is also supporting this agenda, GIZ, some others. So let's try and keep them motivated to do this whilst we are working on these other financing mechanisms. And partnerships are crucial for pushing this agenda forward. So that is why we are also part of Coalition for Soil Health, and I hope that everybody who was participating in this session also joins, because together we can do it. It's happening and we are going to accelerate. So let us stay in touch and see you next time. Keep an eye on our social media so you get all the invitations and don't miss out. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Katja. Wow. So now I've learned something new about Finnish people, to the point, and such an inspiring closing. And you're inspired us with this collaboration and highlighting the successes. And we are very happy to be closing the webinar and then giving everyone a few minutes back. And thank you to everyone who asked questions, who attended the webinar, the panelists. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been a real pleasure, and looking forward to scaling healthy soil solutions together. Thank you.